Welcome to Christ&Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural analyst. And today we're going to be talking again, I dealt with this before, but again, we're going to be talking about abortion and the Christian faith and the Republican Party that seems to be wavering on this issue now. Now that we have actually won some great victories, the overturning of Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court level, it seems like Republicans don't seem to know what to do. And they don't want to come right out and show their convictions about abortion, saying it's wrong, it's a murder of a baby in the womb. They seem to want to try to please everyone now, and they want to try to pander to the masses instead of taking a strong moral standard. You know, we have to remember as Christians, we are called the city on the hill. We're to put our light out there morally and spiritually, put our light in a lampstand, on a lampstand, so that the whole world can see the truth of God. And we have to do that, and we cannot compromise on the truth of God. So we need to be out there and displaying the truth of God in all of its glory. But instead, we seem to see a lot of Christians who are Republicans trying to figure out, okay, how do we not offend the liberals so that we can get victory and abortion? And that is not the route that we need to take. The liberals are never going to come around to our position unless we state it as forcefully and clearly as we can. Well, here's an article in the news, and this is how the mainstream media is trying to portray the abortion issue. They're trying to convince Republicans, hey, you need to soften your view on abortion. You need to be willing to compromise. You need to be willing to be popular with the secular crowd. And that's the only way you can win. So you need to change your attitude. Don't drive for a hard line position on abortion, and just be willing to negotiate this issue, just like any other political issue. Well, that's impossible with a Christian because we have clear evidence in Scripture. It says that God created them male and female, and He created them in His own image. So everyone is created in the image of God. So if they're created in the image of God, then you can't kill the baby in the womb created in the image of God. You're killing a creation of God, and you're insulting God, you're offending God, you're sinning against God, and that can never be a right in this country. So no, we're not going to soften our view on abortion, but the Republicans are flirting with the idea of doing just that. And the mainstream media is encouraging that. They're trying to get Republicans to compromise. They're trying to get them to soften their view. They're trying to actually make a Republican Party that's actually pro-life, the way the pro-life party used to be in the 70s and 80s and 90s. They're trying to help the Republicans become liberal light, the way the liberals were in the 90s. So it says here in Politico, for a Republican Party struggling with abortion messaging, Haley now appears to have the answers. So this is Nikki Haley, who is one of the candidates for the presidential nomination of the Republican Party. She's not really a viable candidate, but she has second place, I guess, right now behind Trump. Trump has a huge lead, but of course, then there's a second and third place, and she appears to be second or third. And her message, as we'll see in this article, says, is that you need to compromise. Let's read the article, and let me comment on this. This is a really, really bad idea. It says, back in April, Nikki Haley delivered a speech at Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America's headquarters that left officials from the anti-abortion group disappointed and positioned her as an outlier in the field. So this politician, Nikki Haley, was speaking at a pro-life rally and very much disappointed them in what she said. What was she saying? The former U.S. ambassador declined to call for a federal 15-week limit on the procedure and spoke broadly about sensitivity and finding national consensus. The anti-abortion activist warned that her approach would alienate base voters. This is the kind of softening that I'm talking about. This is the kind of going liberal that I'm talking about. She's trying to tell people that the abortion issue is a very sensitive issue. Well, okay, so what does that mean? And then she's saying national consensus. So in other words, if the propaganda machinery has convinced the majority of the Americans that abortion is fine, well, then we need to find a consensus within the abortion dominant culture. And we need to abandon our principles, and we need to abandon our moral stand against abortion if it will bring consensus. No, that is totally the false issue. That is totally the false response. We do not need another Democratic Party. We do not need a Democratic Party light that calls itself the Republican Party. We need a Republican Party that stands for moral and spiritual standards. And this moral standard on abortion is no abortion. It is not acceptable. It is outrageously, it is immoral. And when you kill a baby, the mother killing her baby in the womb is a moral outrage. We should never, ever let go of that moral outrage. On Wednesday, Haley delivered a similar line on abortion during the third GOP primary debate, declaring that she remains personally opposed. Again, that's the Democratic talking point of the 90s. Remember Mario Cuomo famously talked about, I'm personally against abortion, but I would not impose that on the nation. And here we have a leading candidate for the nomination of GOP, and she's beginning to talk like a 90s liberal. Mario Cuomo, this bifurcation of the personally opposed to abortion, but pro-abortion nationally or politically because I don't want to impose my values on other people. Well, it isn't your value so much as it's God's moral standard. Whether you believe it or not, that's God's moral standard. All life in the womb is sacred because all life in the womb is made in the image of God. Very clear. She says she remains personally opposed, but she does not judge anyone for being pro-choice. Well, why not? Pro-choice is a choice. You are choosing to justify or try to attempt to justify the killing of an unborn child in the womb. You are trying to justify murder. That's another instance of murder. And you're trying to do that and trying to convince others to justify murder. Yes, we do judge that. That is wrong. That is incorrect. That is a evil, satanic idea. And we cannot survive as a nation if we go down that path because God's judgment will come upon us. Because God isn't entertained by our wishy-washy stand on morality. We have to stand strong for this because lives, babies, unborn, are in the balance. This time around, she wasn't being viewed as an anomaly among the candidates, but as the possible template for others in the party to follow. Possible template by liberals and the leftists and the mainstream media and the people who are pushing abortion. Yeah, she's a template. So they're finding a lot of good news when they hear Nikki Haley talk about abortion because she's sounding like one of them, only a lighter version of one of them. And that is bad news for Republicans, and it's bad news for Christians because if the Republican Party wants to go that direction, that is not the direction a lot of Christians are going to go. So if you want to lose more voters than you would ever gain, say, of people middle of the road on this, you're going to lose Christian voters because this is one of the big moral issues of our day, if not the biggest. You know, the so-called gay LGBTQ thing, that's terrible and awful, and we protest that. But this abortion issue, this is direct killing of human lives. And so, no, if you go into the pro-abortion direction, instead of holding fast, you're going to lose Christian voters. You're going to lose me. I will not vote for a Republican candidate running for president or any other position who is pro-life to any extent. No. It feels like everyone's kind of heading in the same direction and is toward the position Nikki Haley has articulated from the beginning, says Republican strategist David Kochel, a longtime fixture of Iowa politics. Well, if that is true, then you're going to lose a lot of Christians, and you deserve to lose them, because we are not going to follow you into abortion. Haley had the answer that most Republicans should be learning how to articulate because it makes so much sense. Makes so much sense? From what perspective does it make sense? Just to win? We need people in our coalition who have diverse opinions about abortion. No, we don't. No, we don't. Why would you settle for a party that has pro-abortion people in it and pro-life people in it? No, we need to stand strong as the party of pro-life, defending moral decency. If we're going to go down the road of just compromising all our moral values, we don't need the Republican Party. We already have a Democratic Party. We already have a compromised, immoral, evil, godless party in the Democrats. We don't need a Republican light Democrat Party. The Republican Party is in the midst of a potentially seismic shift when it comes to how it talks about abortion. In the years before Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade, few, if any, serious presidential aspirants were willing to risk being portrayed as anything less than 100% on board with the anti-abortion stand set by the leaders of the cause. No, it's not people following the leaders of the cause. It's following moral decency. And we select leaders who help us push moral decency. It isn't the leaders are leading us into abortion, pro-abortion, or pro-life. It's the leaders reflect our Christian values based on the Bible, based on every soul is made in the image of God. We elect them, like Trump, for example, in 2016. Do you think Christians were led by Trump being pro-life? No. Trump was led by Christians being pro-life, and he wanted our Christian vote, so he was pro-life. And if these politicians think that they're leading, if they're the ones that we follow, no. They follow us, or else they don't reach any position in politics on the Republican side. But if these Republicans are going to try to lead us into abortion, we're not going to vote for them. But over the past years, as voters have consistently backed codifying abortion rights in the states, including Ohio, the night before the debate, GOP candidates up and down the ballot have tried to moderate or muddy their messaging, even while continuing to back abortion restrictions. That's the problem. That's the problem. Instead of standing up proudly and loudly and saying abortion is murder, and when a woman takes her baby in for an abortion, she's taking it in to be killed by a murderer. And she's an accessory to the murder. And this is wrong. This is evil. And this will bring judgment upon our nation. And God is angry at this. So we need to protect all human life at all levels. That's the message we need to send, not this muddy, moderate, well, I can understand. We need to be sensitive to the women with abortion. No, we need to draw the line very clearly and say we will never, ever cross this line. We will never, ever support baby killing, the slaughtering of the infants, child sacrifice. Never, ever do that. The current runaway favorite for President Donald Trump has repeatedly warned that the Republican Party risks electoral calamity if it comes off as too doctrinaire. Okay, Trump is now listening more to his advisors than he is to his constituents. We don't need Trump following political strategists. He needs to follow his Christian voter base. And they say never, ever back abortion for any reason. So he needs to listen to us and stop listening to his high-priced consultants. That Haley, the most ascendant of the also-rans, has staked out a softer approach. 2, suggesting there is currently little political downside in doing so. Yes, there is. The political downside is the Christians won't show up for you because you are not really reflecting their values. I mean, I think these people actually think, well, the Christians, they'll kind of vote for me because I'm better than the Democrat. No, we won't. If you go down that path of compromise on abortion, I have no reason to vote for you. Well, then you'll lose to the Democrat. Okay, fine. We'll lose to the Democrat. Because we've already lost already if we're going to compromise on abortion. If you compromise on abortion, you have de facto lost already on the most important issue. And so if we're going to get a compromise position, we already have the Democrats for that. And now the Republicans are going to join that? No. We need someone who stands and says, no, I will not compromise on murder. We will never, ever vote for murder, and make it very clear that pro-life is the only morally acceptable position, and not talk about making these little soft concessions and compromises. Having endured criticism over her approach early in the race, Haley's campaign feels she is teaching the GOP how to talk about this. No, she's not. She is not teaching us anything that we want to learn. As one of the campaign officials put it, it does not go unnoticed that she is doing so as the only woman in the race. It doesn't matter what she is, woman, man, it doesn't matter. She needs to be strong. So if you want to be a strong woman, take a strong moral stand. Don't compromise to the devil. Don't compromise to evil. This is not what we will vote for. She is on a primary debate stage surrounded by men, the campaign official, granted an anonymity to speak freely, said. The first debate, they were literally all wearing the same thing. Here, she was a voice of reason and clarity. I think it just struck people. Boy, that is... See, these consultants, they are high-priced, but they're worthless almost. Because this consultant is telling the Republicans to become more democratic if you want to win. Trump won on a pro-life platform in 2016. And we don't need high-priced consultants to say, well, now you have to be pro-abortion to win. No, you don't. Haley's moderation, Democrats argue, is on rhetoric, not substance. As a governor and state legislator, she supported anti-abortion laws and continues to pledge to sign the most restrictive one that would reach her desk. Top surrogates of the Biden campaign, which has made no secrets of its plans to run on abortion. So Biden is all in on abortion. He just can't get enough of that. We're quick to slam her debate's response, attempting to frame her as an extremist despite her hesitance to embrace a specific federal standard. So you're not going to please the Democrats. If you're trying to get their vote, you're not going to get their vote. You're not going to get... People by now understand what abortion is, and they have figured out what they believe about it. So if they're going to vote for abortion, people, let them. And if the Republican Party just loses every election because they stand for moral clarity and sanity, okay, well, we lose. You don't win by compromising the truth. You don't win by becoming what the other party is and trying to do it better than they are. No, you win by speaking the truth. And if the truth does not win elections, then you don't want to win that election. And we're a lot worse off than we thought we are. But I don't believe that we would lose if we were very clear and unapologetic about our position on abortion. But as a matter of messaging, it is clear that the GOP primary field has moved in Haley's and Trump's direction, with former Vice President Pence now out of the race and former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson no longer on the national debate stage. There's a little public embrace in the GOP's primary of a national abortion law. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who signed a 6-week abortion ban in his state and agreed to sign a 15-week national abortion restriction if president, didn't mention that pledge during the third debate. Instead, he told a personal story about appointing a state Supreme Court justice whose mother had been counseled to abort her. Okay, so DeSantis is doing the incremental approach, signed a 6-week abortion ban. So that's getting closer. That's getting closer to zero. Okay, so then you have a 15-week abortion ban, and then you have a 10-week abortion ban, then you have a 6-week abortion ban, then you have a 3-week abortion. They keep making it smaller and smaller, which eventually, hopefully, it'll get to zero, which means you can't have an abortion ever. And that's the only moral sane view of this. You can't have this state of abortion like we have right now, where it's basically anything goes in most of these states. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie maintained that the issue was one for states to decide for themselves. Biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy declined during the debate to give a direct answer to the question of a 15-week ban, though he has repeatedly said it should be decided at the state level, instead calling for sexual responsibility for men. The one exception was Tim Scott, who embraced a 15-week ban. Well, I would love to see a 15-week ban as a beginning, as a start, and then a 10-week ban, and then a 5-week ban, and then get it further down closer to zero. For leaders in the anti-abortion movement, it feels off and a bit frustrating that the loudest voices in the party have failed to adopt the proposed 15-week messaging. Having finally achieved their decades-late goal of dismantling Roe, they believe Republicans need to not act defensive. That's exactly right. We need to act like we have the answer, because we do, and stop hiding and being so cowardly. Get in there and defend human life, and get in there and make the moral argument against abortion. We have the victory if we just open our mouths and do a halfway decent job of defending human life. I think clarity is a gift in politics, and the only one with any sense of clarity at this time was Tim Scott, said Marjorie Denenfelser, president of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, remarking in the most recent debate. Voters in the Republican primaries deserve to hear not nuance, but they deserve to hear what the candidates would actually do. I don't think that the question could be asked in any simpler way than the moderators have asked. So, clarity is the most important thing. Stop hiding. Stop running away from abortion. If the Democrats want to bring abortion issue to the forefront, if that's all they want to talk about, okay, let's talk about dead babies. Let's talk about dismemberment. Let's talk about what it really is instead of it in these euphemisms. Product of conception, the procedure, the abortion. Instead of calling it baby killing in the womb, blood and guts, they call it a procedure. And they sanitize all their language. Let's talk about what abortion really is. And if you start doing it that way, people will go, wow, this is really bad. Denenfelser said she has not spoken with Haley since her speech at their headquarters in April, or with Trump since she held a meeting with him later in the spring. But she's holding out hope that they have a change of heart on how they're approaching abortion policy. Yes. Yeah, we really do want a change of heart and a change of attitude, and stop listening to the consultants, these worthless, high-priced consultants. And they need to start listening to their constituents. But change of heart seems increasingly unlikely. On Tuesday, voters passed an amendment enshrining abortion into the political constitution in the red state of Ohio, in what was widely seen as political bellwether for voters leading up to 2024. Yeah, very great disappointment, very disappointing. But as Christians, we need to encourage our politicians and our candidates to stand up and make the argument. And you can, right there in our Constitution, I mean, not in our Constitution, but the Declaration of Independence, which is not technically a legal judicial document, but it is as if it were. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Okay? And that covers the children too. We all know that. And if you're going to say that all people are created equal, then that implies a creator, created God. God created all people with inherent rights, inalienable rights. And in order to reflect those inalienable rights, there needs to be a law prohibiting the killing of these people who have inalienable rights and who are made in the image of God. And that is simply what the pro-life position is, that every last soul, whether unborn or born, deserves to be treated with respect, and they have a right to life. And it doesn't matter if the mother is inconvenienced. It doesn't matter if she can't afford to raise the child. There's always adoption. That's the decent thing to do. And it doesn't matter if the mother wants a career or wants to go to college and she doesn't have time for the child. You don't kill someone because they're an inconvenience. Okay, there is such a huge conversation to be had about the moral weight of the pro-life movement. But instead, a lot of GOPs have been saying, well, we don't want to even get into that, so we're going to kind of dodge and shuck and jive and try to double talk and nuance and be vague in general and not really get into that. Well, you have to get into it. You have to get into it. And if you can't articulate a clear pro-life, pro-human being position in a debate or in a discussion, if you cannot defend it adequately, you need to get out of the race. We don't need politicians who simply can't speak morally. Whether they are unwilling to speak morally or they can't speak and articulate moral values, get out of there. Give us candidates who know how to clearly explain why abortion is a crime and it's murder, and that women don't have that right. And force the opponent to say, well, give me the basis for the right of a woman to kill and murder her child. What principles can get you there? And there are none. There are none. It's a simple moral anarchy state when women can kill their babies. What about the father? Doesn't he have a say? No, doesn't have a say. It's all about the mother. And she has the absolute right to kill her baby, according to the Democrats and the liberals and the leftists. Okay, we need to ask them, by what principles do you get to that point? And they have no answer. And if they try to bring up some of these lame excuses and put those out as answers, we need to be able to refute those false claims right there immediately and just simply put those off because they have no weight. And we have the better position. And so we need to pressure our Republican candidates and say, no, you're not going to go here. You try to do that, we're going to vote you out of office. We're not going to vote for you. We're willing to lose instead of having compromised people. We'll see you back next week. God bless.